That all changed in 1908 when a railway worker by the name of Zacharias Lawala found a shiny stone.
Sand dunes now roll through houses that once housed a bustling community.
This is the story about the diamond town of Kolmanskop.
In the heart of Namibia's desert, where dunes drift like ghosts and the wind never stops, there lies a place once built on diamonds. German roofs, grand halls, a hospital, a theater, even a casino, all rising from the sand, as if defying emptiness. But the desert waited, and when the sparkle faded, it took everything back. Today, Kolmanskop is quiet, half buried in silence. It boomed, it vanished, now it waits, half forgotten, fully haunting. This isn't just a ghost town, it's a memory being buried alive. The beginning of Kolmanskop. The story of Kolmanskop begins with a glint in the dust. In 1908, a railway worker named Zacharias Lawala was clearing tracks in the Namib Desert when he spotted something, a small, shiny stone. He handed it to his German supervisor, August Stauch. Stauch had a hunch. The stone was a diamond. Within weeks, fortune-hungry Germans flooded the desert. They set up camp, then built streets. And just like that, a settlement rose from the sand. They named it Kolmanskop, after a transport driver, Johnny Coleman, who once abandoned his ox wagon in a sandstorm nearby. By 1912, the town had transformed. The architecture mirrored Germany. Crisp lines, ornate doors, red roofs. It had Africa's first electric tram, even a hospital with X-ray machines. Decades ahead of its time, the desert had offered diamonds, but beauty here came at a cost. For every 2 carats pulled from the ground, miners had to sift through 10 tons of sand. Still, before World War I, this region produced more than 2,000 pounds of rough diamonds. Kolmanskop was born fast, built bold, and burning with wealth. But deserts don't stay silent forever. A city built on sand. After that first diamond in 1908, the desert transformed. German miners, engineers, entrepreneurs, they arrived fast. Tents became stone. In less than a decade, Kolmanskop rose like a mirage made real. By 1912, it was one of the richest towns in Africa. Every day, men hauled buckets of sand into giant screens. Kolmanskop produced nearly 200 grams of rough diamonds daily. By World War I, more than 2,000 pounds had been mined from Namib soil. At its peak, hundreds of families lived here, not just surviving, but thriving. There was a hospital, a ballroom, even a bowling alley. Kolmanskop had Africa's first electric tram. Everything was imported from Europe. It was elegance in exile. But more than wealth, it was confidence. Thick walls painted in European style. A theater hall. They carved luxury into the unforgiving desert, brick by brick. But all of it stood on sand. And sand remembers. Kolmanskop's downfall. For a few shining years, Kolmanskop felt untouchable, a diamond oasis surrounded by dunes. But beneath the surface, things were shifting. By the 1920s, the diamonds began to dry up, yields slowed. Then came the discovery that sealed Kolmanskop's fate. 20 miles south, at Elizabeth Bay, miners struck a new, richer diamond field. Almost overnight, families packed up. Kolmanskop started to empty, and in 1928, the final blow. Near the Orange River, one of the richest diamond deposits in the world was discovered. It was massive, untouched, profitable. Kolmanskop became obsolete. By the 1930s, the streets were quiet. By the 1950s, the last residents left. No ceremony, no final photograph, just an empty town, handed back to the desert. Kolmanskop didn't fall, it faded. And the desert? It didn't destroy the town, it just waited. The town slowly disappearing. After the last footsteps faded in the 1950s, the desert began its quiet work. Wind carried sand through broken windows. German-style homes became dunes with roofs. Even the theater and casino, no match for nature's patience. The walls were solid, but the sand was relentless. Kolmanskop became a contradiction, frozen in time, yet slowly disappearing. Wallpaper peeled like skin, doors jammed with silence. The desert didn't erase the town, it absorbed it. Today, many buildings still stand: the hospital, the schoolhouse, even the ballroom. Some rooms are ankle-deep in sand, others filled to the ceiling, entire doorways sealed shut. Kolmanskop isn't just a ghost town, it's a place where absence has shape, where silence has texture, where the desert has become an archivist. Every year, more staircases lead to nowhere, more rooms vanish. Eventually, the town itself may be gone. Is Kolmanskop being buried, or is it being remembered, grain by grain? A city buried in desert. Decades later, Kolmanskop drew people back, not for diamonds, but for something else. Today, it's a living ruin, a place where the ordinary looks surreal. Bathtubs sit in sand dunes. Doors open into chest-deep drifts, ceilings collapse, wallpaper curls like parchment, but the bones of the town still hold. These aren't replicas. What you see was lived in and left. The rooms aren't restored, they're paused. Every corner feels like someone just stepped away and never returned. Kolmanskop is now a photographer's paradise. Morning light cuts through shattered windows. Textures of decay feel deliberate. A classroom with no chalk, a hospital with no beds, a casino where luck ran out. And yet, the silence doesn't feel empty. It feels full. Around 30,000 visitors a year walk its streets. Guides speak in English, German, Afrikaans. Stories of wealth and ruin echo through the dunes. Kolmanskop was never rebuilt, but it was never erased either. It waits, not for rescue, but for those willing to listen. Memories in the dust. Kolmanskop wasn't just a settlement, it was an entire world in the desert. At its peak, it had everything: a hospital with X-ray machines, a school full of German books, a casino, a bowling alley, a post office, even a power plant. Nearly 700 families lived here. Some lived modestly, others dined with crystal glasses under chandeliers as the desert pressed at their windows. But fortune demanded a price. For every carat, nearly 10 tons of sand were processed. Still, nearly 200 grams of diamonds are poured from the ground daily. It was luxury surrounded by nothing, culture planted in sand. What makes Kolmanskop eerie isn't what was left, it's how much still remains. Stand in a hospital room, on the main street, or in a house with walls flaking like sunburned skin. You don't just see the past, you feel it. It's in the silence, it's in the dust. Kolmanskop may be buried, but under the sand, there's still a pulse. The desert reclaims Kolmanskop. Kolmanskop was abandoned by people, but not by nature. The desert returned like a tide, slow, patient, unstoppable. Wind carried sand into every room. A living room became a dune. A hallway became a slope of silence. This wasn't destruction, it was reclamation. Kolmanskop became a symbol of how quickly progress disappears, of how nature always waits. In summer, the heat climbs to 35 degrees Celsius. In winter, it drops near 10 degrees Celsius. The air is dry, the wind constant. Photographers capture what's left. Artists chase what's vanishing. In 2024, Kolmanskop even appeared in the post-apocalyptic series Fallout, a fictional ruin filmed in a real one. But this isn't fiction. This is happening right now. Kolmanskop is not just a ghost town. It's a place being erased before our eyes. Kolmanskop today. To walk Kolmanskop today is to step into a dream and a warning. No velvet ropes, no safety nets of time, a guide and the wind. You walk where trams once ran, past the hospital ruins, into rooms where sand chokes the walls. Some buildings stabilized, others left to collapse in silence. There's even a canteen and coffee stand for visitors, but the desert looms at the edges, endless, patient. That's why Kolmanskop appears in galleries and books worldwide. It's more than a ruin, a reminder of how fast we rise and how quickly we vanish, how fortune fades, and how nature never forgets. Here, even broken mirrors reflect more than glass. Kolmanskop doesn't try to be remembered. It simply is, still, quiet, watching. And when you leave, you don't forget Kolmanskop. You realize Kolmanskop remembers you. The end of Kolmanskop. Kolmanskop rose from nothing and will return to it. It was built fast, lived briefly, and now it fades, slowly. All that remains are empty rooms, broken beams, a silence heavy enough to hear, but somehow it still holds presence. Not because people live here, but because time does. Kolmanskop is a monument, not of stone, but of ambition and patience. One day, the sand will finish what it started. The walls will fall, the signs will fade, and Kolmanskop will lie beneath the dunes, unseen. But until then, it teaches that nothing is permanent. Not fortune, not memory, not even stone. Kolmanskop isn't a tragedy, it's a truth. The town that time forgot is the town that time will bury.